first story is of a woman named Samantha. While arguing with her boyfriend on the phone, she notices a shabby theater playing a movie starring an actor who has the exact same name as her. Curious, she goes inside the empty theater room to check out the movie. To her surprise, the lead actress is herself. In the movie, she is drenched in blood and being chased by a psycho killer. While desperately running away, she finds her boyfriend, and together, they run to the highway in order to ask a car for a ride. The first car they encounter is a police car. The policeman driving the car is suspicious of them, but nonetheless, he decides to give them a ride to town. But just as they are about to drive away, the killer in a welding mask emerges out of the forest and stands before the car. Ignoring the couple's advice to just drive away, the policeman goes forward to arrest the killer. When he refuses to drop his weapon, the policeman fires his gun and shoots multiple bullets at the killer, making him drop to the ground. Believing that he is dead, the policeman slowly inches forward and opens his helmet. Whatever he sees makes him panic and in a hurry to run away. He trips and ends up shooting a bullet through his own head. The policeman dies on the spot, but the killer, however, is still alive. The couple smash the window of the car and run through the woods again to get to their friend's cabin for shelter with the killer hot on their tails. Before they close the door, the killer manages to hit their friend with a hammer. So to enact his revenge, the friend takes away the gun that Samantha's boyfriend has found and boasts about how he's going to shoot the killer himself. But before he could do anything, the killer stabs him through the chest with a crowbar. The boyfriend tries to shoot the killer, but all he hits is an obstacle, that obstacle being their friend. While her boyfriend struggles against the killer, Samantha rushes into the basement to find some weapons. To her horror, the basement is filled with what appears to be mummified corpses. By the time she regains her senses and comes out of the basement with new weapons, her boyfriend is already nice and crispy. Enraged, Samantha now begins to fight back against the killer. Although she is smaller and weaker, she struggles with all her might and finally manages to gain the upper hand. When she knocks the killer's helmet off, she is shocked to see that it is her childhood friend. He begs her not to kill him and begins to tell his story. Actually, he, along with Samantha, her boyfriend, and all their friends, came to this cabin for a fun weekend together. But while they were partying, a clump of spiders fell from the sky and started chasing after them. They entered their bodies through their mouths to take control of them, but thankfully, he managed to escape when a welder's helmet fell on top of his head, preventing the spider from entering his mouth. He has been going around hunting down everyone who has been infected to destroy the spiders within them. Hearing this story, Samantha breaks down and begs him to kill her before the spider fully takes control of her. But even after he kills her, this is not the end, as hundreds of spiders come out of hiding and surround the spider killer. He puts on his helmet once again and begins his futile struggle against them. The story then shifts to a young couple who sneak into the same abandoned theater in order to have some fun. While they are making out, the theater mysteriously starts playing a movie starring the couple as the main characters. The movie is about a woman with a facial scarring called Anna and her handsome fiancé. Although he keeps reassuring her that he loves her again and again, she can't help but feel insecure about her appearance. So to soothe her mind, he offers her a pre-wedding plastic surgery by the recommendation of his mother, who has undergone many plastic surgeries herself. Agreeing to his offer, Anna goes to the clinic the very next day. Apart from fixing her scars, the surgeon also recommends some other treatments, such as a nose lift and some fillers here and there. Worried that she might be going too far in the pursuit of beauty, she is a little reluctant to accept all the surgeries right away. But after a little bit of convincing, she agrees. After the surgery, she wakes up with her head fully bandaged. The nurse happily informs her about the smooth surgery and instructs her not to talk too much and rest for now. She obediently closes her eyes and takes a short nap. The next time she wakes up, she gets to meet the surgeon who informs her that a minor operation must be done on her nose again tomorrow morning to fix it. After the surgeon leaves, Anna tries to make a call but is denied by the nurse. She then requests for a mirror, which is denied again. That night, she sneaks out of her room and weakly stumbles into the reception counter. Taking advantage of the nurse's absence, she skims through her medical records to find that her further plastic surgeries were urgently requested by her fiancé. But before she can investigate any further, the nurse gets back to the reception, so she has no choice but to flee. While she stumbles back from the reception, she hears a voice calling for help. She follows the voice to her room to see a faceless patient. Anna runs away in terror and tries to escape from the hospital, but ends up getting caught. When she wakes up again, she is back inside her hospital room, but this time there is a mirror on the bedside table. She quickly undoes her bandages, only to freak out when she finds out that she has been turned into a Kardashian. Her fiancé, who organized the entire event, thinks she looks beautiful. At the end of the movie, Anna wakes up from her trance to see that her boyfriend has disappeared from his seat. As she wanders around to search for him, she encounters the projectionist. He lets her know that the movie she has just watched is her deepest fear, and also her death story. Faced with a chilling truth, Anna screams in horror, marking the end of the second story. The third victim of the cinema is a priest. His movie plays out inside a Catholic school where a student is attempting to jump off of a building. In order to stop the boy, a nun rushes to the rooftop and tries to coax him to get back down. He seems to be possessed by something as he ends up jumping off, even after begging the nun to help him. That night after the terrifying incident, the nun stays awake late at night to work at her desk. But as she is working, the cross suddenly falls off the wall, and she begins to hear strange noises, which she follows outside of her bedroom, but she finds nothing. The next night, while she is baptizing the priest in her holy water, the both of them hear the strange noise again and leave to investigate it together. This time, they encounter an eerie phenomenon of blood painted on the statues of the church. They silently follow the trail of blood, which leads them to a disturbing mass of giant flesh. Many supernatural events start happening at the school, compelling the nun to go through religious textbooks in search of an answer. She finds out about the demon Mashit that tortures children, leading them to suicide. As soon as she finishes reading, the priest enters the room, followed by the ghost of the dead boy, who warns them that someone from the school is possessed by the demon. Realizing Mashit just got real, the pair quickly get into action and call the girl, who was close to the student who committed suicide, into the chapel. They try to perform an exorcism on her, but her mother quickly intervenes and takes her daughter away. By the time they figure out that it is actually the girl's mother's body who is full of Mashit, it is already too late. The demon has taken control of all the students inside the dormitory, almost like each and every one of them is a piece of Mashit. The nun and the priest are left with no choice but to arm themselves and fight back against the demon's army. At the end of their valiant fight to purge evil, the priest ends up losing his life, and the demon switches bodies to possess the nun, whose eyes now scream, "This is Mashit," and takes control of the entire school. The third movie ends and the fourth one begins when an unsuspecting lady enters the theater. The movie this time is all black and white. She's at the therapist's office with her two sons, waiting for her appointment. After a long, agonizing wait, the doctor finally calls her into his office. She reveals that ever since her husband abandoned them, she has started to feel that everyone around her is changing, and people have started looking deformed. But the only change she sees in her sons is that they have suddenly become mature, and they even helped her book the doctor's appointment. But the doctor cuts off the meeting right away when he gets a call. Unable to stop him from leaving, the woman dejectedly leaves the room. As soon as she is out, she notices that the building has suddenly become run down and the people have become deformed to the point where they barely even look human. She is panicked by the drastic change, but she still has to find her children. But they are nowhere to be found. She ends up in the washroom and sees a plumber. She walks up to him to ask about her children's whereabouts, but the man doesn't answer. In desperation, she even takes out a pistol and threatens the man, but even then, the man remains silent. Helpless, she makes a call to her husband to ask for his help, but he replies that they don't have any children. Convinced that she is going crazy, the woman points the gun at her head and is about to pull the trigger when she hears the voices of her sons conversing with a therapist. She sprints to follow the sound and eavesdrops on their conversation. She hears the therapist saying that what she sees and hears are mere hallucinations, and now the only option left for her is suicide. Hearing this enrages her, which makes her shoot the therapist dead. She then drags her sons out of the building. Following the end of the movie, the lady jolts back to reality inside the theater. She peeks into her handbag and discovers a pistol, then shoots herself to commit suicide. The fifth victim is soon lured by the cinema. The victim is a young piano prodigy whose movie also begins as soon as he takes a seat inside the theater. He is called Riley, and he is with his parents inside the car. They are about to drive back home after his performance when suddenly a murderer jumps out from the backseat of the car. The young boy has to witness his parents being shot one after another as he flees to escape from the murderer, but he is also shot down. Riley wakes up to find himself inside a hospital. He starts seeing bizarre things around him, like a patient trying to escape, or his mother, who was shot right before his eyes, walking around like nothing happened. When he wakes up again, the nurse tells him that he is lucky to be alive as he was dead for a full 17 minutes on the operating table. As his condition has stabilized, he is soon transferred to a different ward. That night, he is visited by his parents' murderer while he is sleeping. The murderer comes into his room with a bouquet in his hands, but before he could do anything, he is escorted out of the room by a nurse who mistakes him as Riley's acquaintance. The same night, Riley walks out of the room again to see ghosts walking around in the hallway. He also meets a woman who can see ghosts just like him. She claims it is so because the both of them have experienced death but then came out alive. They give each other a few words of encouragement and part their ways. Come next morning, Riley is visited by the ghost of his mother once again, who wants him to join her in his death. Fortunately, he is saved by the girl he met last night, but when the girl returns to her own room after saving him, the mother appears right in front of her and kills her in one swift move. The murderer manages to sneak into Riley's room again. This time, he is resolved to kill the boy and jumps to attack him as soon as he gets close. After a heavy struggle, Riley somehow manages to evade the murderer and runs out to call for help, but all the nurses have already been murdered as well. As he desperately runs to find a hiding place, he ends up inside the morgue. He hides inside the morgue's freezer cabinet, squeezing himself next to the dead body of a girl. He manages to hide himself for now, but when he gets out of the room to escape from the hospital, he is once again caught by the murderer. The murderer tightly grips his neck, intent on strangling him to death, but at the last moment, Riley manages to kill the man by stabbing him with a sharp end of a broken broomstick. After the ordeal is over, Riley retains his powers to see ghosts, which he uses to see his dead parents. But unfortunately, this also means he can see the ghost of the murderer, who refuses to leave him alone. As the movie ends, Riley is visited by the projectionist inside the theater. He lets Riley run away alive, unlike the previous victims who are dead and forever trapped inside the cinema. Finally, we see the projectionist placing Riley's movie reel inside a huge library of reels, which marks the end of the actual movie. And that's a wrap for this movie recap. Thanks for watching.